The Apocalypse of St. John by Emil Bock. Foreword. This book is an attempt to point to sources of inward security and strength amidst the perplexities of our time. If witnesses to the conviction that the destinies of the present age are charged with deeper and far more reaching significance than calmer and more settled periods of the past. The human mind comes up against a special barrier when it endeavors to comprehend the events of the immediate present. We require some distance from the events in order to understand them. We are unable to fully grasp the historic significance of present facts, and the historic facts which we do seem to grasp belong to the past and are no longer accessible to our immediate experience. Thus our understanding always lags behind the actual event. This is inevitable because, to quote Rudolf Steiner, real history is made in the sphere of the supersensible. High above our heads, above the plane of external events, above the tumult of battles, history is made in the realm of spirit. Earthly history is but a shadow of this meta-history. If we were able to watch the events on the meta-historical plane, we could read the significance at every single moment of the events in which we are involved on Earth. The revelation of St. John is a magic mirror which, held up against events in time, makes visible not only the external, but the inward and hidden continents of the historic period. For our present age, constant reference to the supersensible events is particularly indispensable. As though by invisible hands humanity is moved toward the threshold of the unseen, we might almost say thrown against it. Only the spell of materialism, as yet still unbroken, obscures the view. In reality, human actions themselves, even in the sphere of political tensions, are today a constant opening of the sluice gates through which the floods of the supersensible world pour into the world of men. What poets and writers of earlier ages expressed in prophetic terms is becoming factual reality. Our present time is not lacking in revelation. The angels are active. They are descending from heaven. They produce dramatic pictures. They blow their trumpets. They draw away the veil which hides the spirits behind the scene. Not revelation itself, but our sense for revelation is wanting. The revelation of St. John can help us wake up, and we may begin to read in the book which discloses the meaning of what so often appears utterly meaningless. The present studies are based on the lectures held in the winter of 1940 to 1941 at Stuttgart, Berlin, and Munich, under the auspices of the Christian community. The dramatic events of that time made their own immediate contribution. The latter half of the lectures was often given while the air raid sirens sounded. The series was barely concluded when in June 1941 the Christian community was suppressed by the Hitler government. Its literature was confiscated and destroyed, its ministers put in prison and concentration camps. The manuscript of this book, in part already prepped for publication, was also lost. In rewriting these studies after the war in 1951, I asked myself whether they were still relevant to the events which have moved with such inexorable momentum since then. But it may seem that a study of the apocalypse is today more relevant than ever. In 1908, Rudolf Steiner, who was the principal helper and advisor of the Christian community at its foundation, gave at Nuremberg a series of basic lectures on the Book of Revelation, published in the series Esoteric Studies by the Anthroposophic Publication Company at Dornach, Switzerland. This publication is referred to here as representative for the whole of the epoch-making work of Rudolf Steiner, who places anthroposophy as a comprehensive apocalypse into the present time. The studies of this book owe their inception to this great inspirational impulse. Individual works by Rudolf Steiner are quoted in the footnotes. Emil Bock. Introductory observations on the character and structure of the apocalypse. The revelation of St. John has a strange reputation. For many people, it has a strong sectarian flavor. Many imagine that it contains nothing but the superstitions of days long past. But rightly understood, it is the guidebook of advanced Christianity. It is not without reason that the revelation of St. John stands at the end of the Bible, its compass reaching far beyond the Gospels. One must already have gone through everything else, the Gospels, the Acts of the Apostles, and St. Paul's epistles, before one can approach it. It stands at the peak, the highest level of the New Testament. Had Christianity already attained to the level of the Apocalypse, one might more confidently face the facts of our age, which is becoming more and more apocalyptic. Christianity, rightly understood, is the religion of the open heavens, the religion of men before whom the curtain has been drawn aside, which divides the earthly world of the senses from the sphere of the supersensible. The worship of the Old Covenant was the religion of the closed heavens. The veil before the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple was the central symbol of the Old Testament religion. But in the hour of Golgotha, the religious principle of the veiled mystery lost its validity and power. The rending of the veil in the temple was a significant gesture of God, a telling spiritual act. The revelation of St. John teaches men to read in the world from which the curtain has been drawn aside. Great patterns and spheres of evolution emerge out of one another. At the beginning, the seer encounters Christ at a moment which might well be called his Damascus. This encounter awakens in him a new consciousness. The Johannine eagle now begins to soar aloft and to rise in spiral movements, as it were, into the world behind the curtain. The first circle remains still close to the earth. It is reflected in the 7 messages, chapters 1 and 2. 7 perhaps insignificant early Christian congregations in Asia Minor appear as a quintessence of mankind, arranged in a circle, like a cyclical collection of phases of history. The preparatory round is followed by the 7 seals, chapters 5 through 8, the 7 trumpet blasts, chapters 8 through 14, and the outpouring of the 7 vials of wrath, chapters 15 through 18. The 7 seals contain spiritual pictures, indicating that an inner faculty of seeing has been developed. The trumpet blasts are a higher form of speech, presupposing an inner faculty of hearing. In the last and holiest cycle, reality follows picture and word. Real contact with the super-earthly forces of beings opens up inner organs which are a spiritual octave of the sense of touch. Each of these 3 higher stages contains a main theme. The seals are connected with the book, the trumpets with the altar, the vials of wrath with the temple in heaven. The description is found in Rudolf Steiner's writing of the 3 stages of supersensible knowledge, which he calls imagination, inspiration, and intuition. Supplies an important key to the architecture of St. John's Apocalypse. In Steiner's teaching, dogmatic talk of inspiration and the supernaturally inspired origin of the New Testament scriptures is replaced by a concrete description of the 3 spheres of higher perception to which the human mind, raised by the grace of God, can ascend. The structure of the Apocalypse is a veritable map of these provinces and spheres of an increasing supersensible knowledge. The seals of the book, the trumpet blast at the altar, the outpoured vessels from within the temple, these are the apocalyptic forms of expression, or the 3 stages of supersensible perception. The 3 higher planes of knowledge are today reflected in all walks of life. People today have a tremendous hunger for pictures. This has brought into existence the immense number of illustrated papers with which we are inundated. This hunger is a symptom of the fact that man, through the destiny of our time, is being urged toward the sphere of imaginative perception. Unfortunately, as this is not properly understood, substitutes like cinema and television endanger and perhaps kill the true picture sense in the soul. Similarly, we observe a growing hunger for music in men of today. Many are feverishly hungry for music, not only for the sake of entertainment and amusement. From the surging world of the supersensible, the powers of inspiration are exercising a magnetic influence on souls. The spiritual sphere of harps and trumpets is dimly sought after, but in spite of the hunger for music, under the influence of modern civilization, people have forgotten how to listen. Their souls have grown deaf to the real sound world behind the music. Here, too, a substitute is palmed off on men as they dimly yearn for new spiritual experiences. However useful the radio may be for many purposes of everyday life, it has nevertheless not improved or deepened the faculty of hearing in souls. The most irresistible desire in our age is a chaotic influence from the plane of intuition. It is not necessary to specify in detail the forms assumed by the hunger for love. A veritable ocean of wishes and urges has engulfed men and women. Errors and perplexities abound. The chaos is made complete by false fulfillments which the hunger for love finds. The foaming waves of this ocean can only be soothed when mankind perceives that its longing points beyond the earthly domain. Here, incidentally, the comprehensive task is set for the renewal of religion. The hunger for pictures is satisfied when man is taught a new wisdom which is capable of imagination. Hunger for music longs for an artistic life pervaded by real inspiration. Hunger for love ultimately aims at the sphere of religious practice which touches the sphere of intuition, and so orders and sanctifies the turbulent depths of the human will. The Apocalypse stands at the end of the New Testament, and hence the whole Bible. It is the completion both of the New Testament and Old Testament scriptures. Its structure, comprising all levels of higher knowledge, throws into relief retrospectively the order and sequence of the whole New and Old Testament. The grouping of the biblical scriptures is by no means accidental. It follows the stages of ascent revealed in the Apocalypse. The canon, both of the New and Old Testament, arranges the biblical scriptures, in three groups, of which each one represents one of the three stages of supersensible perception. The Old Testament trinity of the historical, poetic, and prophetic books, and the corresponding New Testament trinity of the Gospels, the Epistles, and the Revelation of St. John, lead through the spheres of imagination, inspiration, and intuition, as do the three circles of seals, trumpets, and vials of wrath in the Apocalypse. The Book of Moses, Judges, Kings, together with the other historical scriptures of the Old Testament, represent, with their graphic stories, the picture stage. The same is true of the four Gospels and Acts of the Apostles in the New Testament, although the source of St. John's Gospel lies beyond the sphere of imagination. These are holy picture books, drawn from spiritual vision. Just as the historic scriptures of the Old Covenant look back to the very beginning of creation and the story of the chosen people, so these books picture the life of Christ as the very beginning of a new creation, which begins to unfold in the story of the apostolic age. The stage of inspiration is represented in the Old Testament by the Psalter, the Proverbs of Solomon, and the Book of Job, and other so-called poetic books, and in the New Testament by the epistles of St. Paul and the other apostles. Here the word element prevails, drawn from the font of the Spirit. In the human word, be it the poetic word of prayer or the word of instruction spoken by the apostles out of their deep spiritual maturity, the message of the higher world flows too. On the plane of intuition, a real contact with the Spirit and permeation with power take the place of picture and word. To this third stage belong in the Old Testament the prophetic books, and in the New Testament only the Apocalypse of St. John. This last book of the Bible is the authoritative work on intuitive spiritual experience. Every word in it is saturated with divine presence. The revelation of St. John has flowed complete out of the wellspring of higher knowledge and described in the last of the sevenfold cycles. Out of the temple in heaven, the ministering priestly angels bring forth golden vials. Will men experience the sense of intuition when they drink the love of God out of these vials, or must what flows from the temple vessels be changed to the opposite of love to the hurt of men? The Apocalypse is the intuitive warning of God. It is intended to show men the way to true fulfillment of their being.